We are
We are
back.
back.
Where's my camera at?
I'm better than ever.
This one? Oh, I think I got to move this.
Oh, yep.
Oh, there it is.
All right.
I feel it. I
Sean
feel
camera.
the energy. What's up, man?
Nothing much.
I feel like,
Les was just putting us on the spot, asking us what's up. We're like,
I don't know, man. What the hell, dude? I don't know what's going on.
I don't actually remember what has happened all this week.
I
We
know.
got
I was.
newsletters
It feels.
of
We did a show last week, right?
Yes, we did a show last week.
Oh yeah. We had Glenn.
Oh, the snowstorm threw everything
Yeah,
out.
the
That's what
snowstorm. I'm like,
happened.
what is going on? It feels like we haven't been over here in a minute. But
Yeah.
so I know our sound was messed up last week. People couldn't hear it, but you got it squared away, though, right?
The YouTube video.
Yeah,
should be
Dave
okay.
Noblet. We had him and Glenn Carlson on.
Yeah, last week. So check it out on the YouTube channel. Well, no, don't check those out on the YouTube channel.
Oh, they're not
But
ready
they'll
yet?
be up on the YouTube channel shortly. Hopefully later today.
Today,
And,
John,
well,
today.
I would like to say today, but there's so much going on today. We have.
You're right, man. We got chicken thorn. Can we talk about the other stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
The What's Up is over there making signs right now. We got the book signing.
Got the rally that's to support Amazon workers.
The rally to support Amazon workers is happening today, right after they make the signs. And then we got the Zoomathon for the Juneteenth festival.
And we have. I walked into the Chinook Center this morning, and there was instruments set up on the
Yeah,
stage. I
got
was so
the-
happy. That's all I've ever wanted to see.
Jumanji got the
It's
whole.
like instruments.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to get in there.
And
Jam.
karaoke. If people
Yeah.
want to come down and do some karaoke.
Yeah, so that's for the Juneteenth Zoomathon. So what we're doing, we're having a fundraiser for the Juneteenth festival, the first ever Juneteenth festival in Colorado Springs.
Well, multi-day Juneteenth festival.
Right. Yeah. And it's a multi-day. It's a 3-day event that they got planned, and there's a fundraiser for it. So today, you'll be able to look live on. I know Chinook will be live. Just Cause will probably be live. I think we got enough equipment to do that with, and then, you'll be able to call in and donate through Cash App or bring money down and whatnot. Then we got chicken. I'm frying some chicken, so we're doing
Which you
wings.
can't do via the internet, so you have to
Yeah,
come,
you got to
actually
come-
have to come down and
Come
eat the
get you a
chicken.
$5 basket. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing a couple of different flavors. That'll be fun. And Miss Jackie is her book release is today, so that's also.
We
going on.
interviewed her. If people don't remember, we interviewed her a few months ago.
Yeah, well, that's
She
when we
read
was
some
on the
excerpts.
slide.
Yeah, exactly.
She called into the radio station, and that's right, man. We actually planned today back then. Well, at least put it on the calendar anyway.
That's
Yeah,
how incredible
it was
we are
like
at planning.
months and months ago. It's been on the calendar, so thank God that COVID and all that stuff, kind of chilled out. The book is being written and stuff, and she's said that she's going on a tour around the country, and that she's starting in K-Land, where she or on the South Side where she's from.
Heck yeah.
So what's crazy is her and Lil D are related, man. She's like, she knows all of his family. He knows all of her friends and family.
Like
and stuff.
actual
Actual,
kinfolk, right? Or
like
not?
for real.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't even know it. So
That's funny.
then there was a mishap. I double scheduled their
It's
events
okay. Everything
by
worked out.
mistake, and then guess what? Sean don't ever make a mistake. I'm always right.
Everything worked out for the best.
Yeah, I'm not always. You're not gonna say yeah. Nah.
We already know that. Come on.
So yeah, man. We also had the newsletters, man.
Yeah, we got 2
Ba-ba-da.
newsletters that came out within the past 2 weeks. and
So
you guys-
we got the DSA.
this is both of these are like amazing newsletters, so you guys should check them out.
Yeah, man. They're over. Can they get this?
You come down to the Chinook Center.
They got to
you
come
can
get them. Yeah, we got them at the Chinook
some
Center.
DSA folks have them too. We need to get them.
Yeah, this is good. The working class issue. This is their first.
very first. It's about
issue.
the Green New Deal, like all the different things about the Green New Deal, why we need a Green New Deal.
Yeah, so it's it's really well written, man. So make sure y'all come down there and see the Chinook Center, man, and read what they got. They talking about solar power, all kind of whatever's going on in here. So anyway, then Chinook Center, just
Sean's-
by happenstance, we didn't plan this. I think I heard them saying a newsletter, and I was like,
I wanna do a
I'm gonna do a newsletter too. I don't know, but anyway, so we did one for the Chinook Center, man. We got stuff in there for all of our, not all of them yet. We couldn't fit it all in there, but a lot of the stuff that we had going on in the month of March, and we're gonna do one every month.
Yeah.
Come
So
to the
look
Chinook
for
Center,
them
check them out.
wherever my camera is.
Yeah. So who we got, man? What we doing today?
So we are on our, gosh, I don't even know which installment, but maybe 6th. I have no idea.
If you go to the handy dandy newsletter,
I don't think those are all on there.
so We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th.
Oh, so you're our seventh.
The 7th
Lucky
city
number
council
7.
Karlie
candidate.
Van Arnam, is that correct? That
That's
seems
correct.
like pretty straightforward.
Great
right?
job.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Karlie Von Arnam.
Get Vanaram a
That's
lot.
all.
Is that Dutch or no?
It's Dutch,
Okay.
yes. And I inherited it through marriage. It was not my own. So
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you're not Dutch.
No.
So you are running for District 5. You're our first District 5 person to come on, even though it's such a
Yay.
crowded field.
There's a
Everybody
lot of them.
else, cowards.
Cowards.
I agree.
Straight up.
So that's all you need to know. Vote for Karlie.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
non-coward.
Yeah.
Unless they come on, then they won't be cowards. So.
Then we'll consider them.
Yeah. How we did, what's the guy's name? Hermes came on the Move podcast. So one of your opponents did come on, somebody from the neighborhood, and he was on there earlier off in the campaign too.
There's
So-
another snowstorm.
Yeah. So you want to start it off?
Yeah, so we always ask every new candidate, like, why the heck are you running? Like, what compelled you to run this time around?
Well, don't you know it's the money? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, was it like $5,000 a year?
I think
or
about
something?
$6,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely not the money. So I come from a pretty heavily regulated industry. I've been in the marijuana industry pretty much since its inception in 2009 here in the Springs. And so I have gone in front of lots of city councils, lots of county commissioners, planning commissions for various reasons, primarily with the marijuana industry. And what I have noticed in our city council meetings is we really kind of lack diversity, and we lack a certain perspective that kind of comes with a little bit of the younger generation and a person with my background. And I kept leaving these meetings feeling frustrated, like if only we could get somebody in there with a different perspective, with a different look at things from a different background, then maybe we could have a little bit more progress and change in our city. And so finally I got sick of being angry about it, and when my district came up for re-election this year, I said, here's your opportunity to do something about it. Do you want somebody with a different perspective? Well, here I am.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what encouraged me to run, is I just wanted to do something about feeling frustrated about the state of things. I've also lived here my whole life. I'm a Colorado native. I grew up in Woodland Park, moved to the Springs when I was 18, and in the last several years I have pursued my education, got married, had a son. We've started small businesses. My husband and I own Auto Tech Plaza and National Differential. And so we've been running small businesses for the last several years. And I'm at the point now where I have the opportunity to give back to the community in a really meaningful way. And I know that it's that pay grade or that pay stipend, the fact that it's not a full-time paying job, it makes it really difficult to get that diversity on our city council. So if I have the opportunity to do it, then it's my duty to take that opportunity.
Yeah.
So what different perspective do you think you're representing than the existing city council?
Well, small business, I know we have Richard Scorman, and he's a small business owner, so that's wonderful. But I guess a little bit more of the kind of the progressive, as far as politics are concerned. Colorado Springs, it's no secret, we're very well known for being very conservative. No way. And I think that is disproportionately reflected in our city council.
Yeah.
Disproportional, definitely.
I agree with that.
So
what progressive policies are you interested in? Like, what are your big policies that you want to bring into city council then?
So a couple of things. One of the biggest issues I think facing our city right now is affordable housing. We do not have affordable housing for people earning, 30, 40, 50% of the area median income. It doesn't exist. And we keep, there's building going on, but our low income, our fixed income, our elderly and our disabled are getting priced right out of this market.
Right.
That not only adversely affects them through housing insecurity and an increase in homelessness, but it adversely affects cost of labor, which makes it very hard for small business to compete and expand in this economy. If your employees don't have places to live, you don't have anybody to hire. So the affordable housing issue is more than just affordable doors and curing housing insecurity. It has this ripple effect throughout the economy.
Yeah.
So we need to take a serious look at that. And another probably progressive issue, of course, if anybody's been to my website, everybody knows I'm a proponent for recreational cannabis here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
And that has been a very frustrating roadblock as far as the current city council, and really the city council that was that was seeded back in 2014 when,
Yeah.
when the first recreational store started opening. So that would be another one. Another one is our transient population. I mean, I feel like the city, all they want to do is pass ordinances to just push them out of the
Yes,
way. You
totally.
cannot regulate homelessness out of existence.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
You have to
That's a
address
great
the
way to put it.
systematic issues that contribute to it.
Okay. So, I'm the how guy. How do we do this stuff? Tell us how.
It's a great priorities.
Yeah, so obviously, the business and I want to talk to you kind of separately with the recreational marijuana and the housing stuff. So, kind of on the housing tip, how do we get them to begin this conversation and fix this stuff? The developers that our city employs and does business rub shoulders with, they're making money.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not. It's
Yeah.
not. There's no end in sight. So like, how do we get?
What do you
that?
mean, those poor little developers?
Yeah, they just need a break. They just need a break. But so how do we get that to happen? Because it's money
Sure.
against money right there.
It is. It's money against money. And there's a couple ideas that I have. One is, let's look at regulation. Let's look at zoning codes. And if coming from a highly regulated industry, I understand exactly how cost prohibitive over-regulation can be. We have 2 rulemaking hearings a year. We have a book this thick of rules that change year after year. And the money that's spent to just keep up and comply with these regulations is insane. And that translates to a lot of different industries. So talking to some developers, and by no means do I feel bad for them, but
Right.
I can understand from their perspective, it's like, okay, we want to build some affordable housing, but by the time the project gets delayed, and you have to have another engineering test and another soil test, and you have to do another traffic study and this and that, and it just pushes those projects back and back. And I understand regulation is necessary. We need it for safety, for compliance, for funding, for all kinds of reasons. But over-regulation is where we're really inhibiting quick and efficient building.
Right.
So that's one piece of it. The other piece, I believe, is we're not demanding enough from our developers. We cut slack here, we cut breaks here. What if they pay a fee? They don't have to have as much parkland and this and that and the other thing without demanding any return for that. If you want us to approve this zoning over here, then you need to build affordable complexes over here that target this demographic.
Right, yeah.
We need to be a little bit more collaborative in that and kind of a little more quid pro quo kind of mindset. Like, sure, we can maybe reduce your parkland a little bit for a fee, but in return for that, we want doors that are available to those earning 30% AMI, 40% AMI.
Right.
And I know everybody hates the word rent control. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, socialism. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is. And they still have the opportunity to make money. They're
Right.
going to make money, especially if you're not dedicating the whole unit to affordable housing. You're saying, okay, you're going to build 180 units. We want 25% of them to be dedicated to 30 to 40% AMI.
Yeah.
And the rest charge whatever you want.
Right.
So I think there's a little bit of creativity and balance that we can work with those developers.
So you support the House bill or the bill that's making it through the State House right now then? Because it's illegal at the state level right now to require developers
Right.
to do that, which is completely outrageous. It's legal in so many other parts of the country. I used to be a housing organizer in Massachusetts, and that was like really how we had affordable housing in Massachusetts.
Right.
We had up to 40% of new development was going towards affordable housing. But we don't have that at all in Colorado. And we've seen what's happened in Colorado as a
Right.
result. I mean, housing prices have just skyrocketed so quickly, like
Yeah.
almost unfathomable, whatever. You guys get what I'm
We
saying.
get what you're saying.
Unfathomably. Is that the right word? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's in there.
like it is. It's completely ridiculous, and
Yeah.
there's no way that people can keep up with it. So I take it you support that bill that's going through.
I do. We have to be able to, and I get that the city's not in the business of building houses, right? But at the same time, it's like we need to look out what's best for our community. And if that's saying, hey, you have to dedicate so many units to affordable housing, then that's where we're at. Because
Right,
you know what, everybody thinks, oh, the market's just going to take care of itself.
No,
And we
yeah.
can see how well that's worked out.
Like literally, people are having to leave Colorado Springs. People that were born and raised at Memorial Hospital have to leave the city and leave the state. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not acceptable.
Well, and
It's
this notion too, I'm
unacceptable.
glad you raised that, because city council is always like, we're not in the business of X, Y, or Z, but it's like, well, you are in the business of other things, so why are you, like, you're in the business of parking, you're in the business of utilities, you're in the
Yeah.
business of,
Yeah.
like, so many
Policing.
things. Like, why don't you find it okay to, like, be in the business of providing housing for the people who live
Right.
in the city? Because they give, we get federal tax dollars, we get state tax dollars for the housing authority, but we don't get city tax dollars for the housing authority, which is.
And what Denver has done, which will kind of segue into our marijuana conversation when you're ready to have that, is they're using those tax dollars, that marijuana money, to invest directly into affordable housing. They've got a plan, they've got goals, and they're doing great things up there that we're denying our citizens here in Colorado Springs.
Right, by not being allowed in the city.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should move on to the marijuana discussion.
But the first thing I want to talk about is, in the marijuana industry, it's a lot of white people. And there's a lot of black people and brown people in jail for doing the exact same thing, having the same mind state, I want to do this and then turn it into this and go over here and do these things, right? So where do you stand on trying to get this thing evened out and get these nonviolent offenders out of jail? And to start with, is that even beginning for you?
Yes, absolutely. We need to address that issue. And what Colorado did wrong at the beginning of this whole marijuana industry, when the Marijuana Enforcement Division was created in 2010, one of the regulations or one of the rules to be able to apply for a marijuana business license application was you couldn't have any drug-related felonies. You couldn't have any marijuana-related felonies, anything like that, in order to apply for a license, which immediately cut out anybody who was adversely or unproportionately affected and discriminated against through the criminal drug laws that we've had for so many years. And that, right off the bat, we got that one wrong. By excluding those people, we excluded diversity. And we made this primarily a white, non-offender industry, and then that kind of set the path for the whole industry, right? And so now we have to play catch up. We have to go back and we have to change kind of these discriminatory practices that led us to where we are now. And this has been an issue that has been brought up in a lot of the rulemaking hearings, where they're enacting social equality kind of regulations and accelerated licensing programs, where those people who are adversely affected in the beginning can now apply for licenses on an accelerated scale to get them into the industry to kind of level out that playing field a little bit.
That's already been done? Or
yep, that's the social equity.
Oh, they're doing that in Colorado, because I know that when it was legalized in Illinois, they were like, okay, we need to make this a priority because Colorado and Washington really screwed this up.
Yeah. So what does that mean? I understand that if you're black or Hispanic or what is it?
Yeah,
women or
women, minorities. People that were kind of excluded from the industry in the beginning because of the drug felony restrictions. You can basically apply for a license, and I haven't been involved a lot in it because we're not recreational in the Springs, and primarily this is for it can work for the medical market too, but everybody wants to get in the rec, not the medical. So I don't have firsthand experience with it other than reading the regs and attending the rulemaking hearings. But from my understanding is you can apply for a license that's kind of hooked to an existing license, so you don't have to have as much capital starting up. And then I think once that social equity license is rolling and cash flowing, then it kind of breaks off into its own
so you
license.
Got to be kind of like mentored into it from an existing business?
Right. And the reason is just because right now it's so capital intensive to get into
which
this
is the problem.
Exactly.
White people tend to have more capital too. Middle class white folk,
and
it's easier,
because of the banking restrictions, you don't have access to go get loans for marijuana infrastructure. Banks won't loan on it, so you basically just have to have the cash.
Generational money,
Yeah, you have to have private investors or something.
All right, cool. Yeah, so now, my bad.
No.
So I just wanted to get to the city part of it. So. I see that you're saying that obviously we're cutting ourselves short on a lot of tax dollars in the city.
Yeah.
Like, what's the priority for that if it were to flip over? 'Cause I feel like it shouldn't be that hard to get done. If
most people, almost everybody I know in Colorado Springs smokes weed.
Right, like all the time, and not having any shops in the city is a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm tired of that. So anyway, everybody's tired of that. But so anyway. Not that it should be a priority, but not that it is. I'm just wondering, like, where would you begin with that stuff and how to sell that to the city? Yeah.
Okay, so here's my big thing that I'll reiterate a couple of times. When we're talking about marijuana and the money that we could get, we all have to keep in mind we're not talking about marijuana. Marijuana is already legal. It's we had that conversation and made that decision back in November of 2012, and it was cemented back in January 2014 when the first adult use stores opened up in Denver. So what we're really having a conversation about is funding for things like affordable housing, for public transportation, for resources for our transient
I like that.
population. We've already had the marijuana conversation. It's here. You can grow it.
Right.
You can smoke it. You can go to Manitou and throw more money at them so they can keep paving their streets in gold and bring it right back here. So now we're talking about what is our city giving up by not allowing it. And thus far, it's about $87 million. If we had allowed recreational sales back in 2014 when everybody else did, we'd have $87 million more dollars for our city. So when you're driving around today, everybody out there, think about where $87 million could have gone to improve our city.
Yeah.
And every year that we don't allow it, that's another $8 to $20 million that we're giving away.
To Manitou Springs.
So is that what Manitou is making, or is that like what the city would make with the size?
That's
of the
what the city is
Got-
projected to make. So I have some
So up to
interesting
$10 million. Is that
$8 to $20 million.
20, yeah.
So
and it's
the-
probably shrinking though as more and more states legalize. It's going to become less of a thing,
Like a
unfortunately.
destination.
Well, the marijuana industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The state of Colorado alone, just in taxes and fees, has made to date $1.37 billion off of taxes. Between 2014 and 2019, Denver has made $294.5 million in taxes. And everybody's like, well, where's the money going? Well, I'll tell you. I have some great numbers
where
here.
they at?
She's the first person that's come with notes.
I know, like
I'm impressed.
somebody needs to vote for this lady.
So between 14 and 19, $29 million has gone to regulation, so regulating the industry up there in Denver. $16 million has gone to youth prevention, so creating drug prevention programs for our youth.
Okay.
$16 million just between the years of 2017 and 2019 has gone to affordable housing in Denver. $16 million. Denver recently increased their special tax that they have on marijuana by 2% in 2018. And that 2% is solely dedicated to affordable housing, specifically for those earning 60% less of the area median income. They have a new 180 unit building that's getting ready to open up there, where they have divided up the units where, so many are dedicated to 30% AMI, so many to 45% AMI. It's located strategically near public transit, promoting walkability so people can walk to the grocery store. So if you don't have private transportation, that's not going to ultimately hinder your lifestyle.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
It's
Build
almost
something
like it's well thought
that
out.
benefits the people. I mean, and that 18. What'd you say? How much was
16
it?
million?
16 million to our 600,000, man.
Yeah. Well,
we got
11
600,000
million
that
in
pot.
2019 alone. $11 million has been dedicated to affordable housing in Denver, all from marijuana.
use.
Yeah.
Bang.
19 million has gone to capital improvements for the city, infrastructure improvements, just in a year. So that's the conversation we're having. We're not talking about marijuana is legal, like it or
Right.
not. Like, we're not creating
Yeah.
any new sins here.
Right.
Yeah, and the people who are so worried about the image of Colorado Springs, I'm sorry, but have you ever driven around Colorado Springs? You smell weed everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not in certain parts of towns, but a lot of parts of town, and there's not recreational, medical
grow
stores
spots all over the place.
everywhere
Right.
you go. So you're right. I mean, it's here.
here.
Let's not pretend
Let's
it's not
pretend
here.
it's not. I manage medical marijuana stores, and I don't know how many people walk in the door every day looking for adult use sales, and we have to send them to Manitou Springs.
Right.
So they already think it's here, and they look at me like I've got two heads. They're like, "What do you mean? This is Colorado, right?" I thought when I got off the plane, you were just going to start throwing joints at me.
Instead of like Hawaii, you get the flowers. Just a weed.
You get a
be
lay
great.
of joints.
So we're not keeping it out of the
That's
city.
what it should be instead of the Olympic City. It should be the weed. Colorado Springs.
John
the weed
Southers, do
capital.
you hear us?
Do you hear how much money this is, Southers?
It's well.
weed
Let's look at
capital.
what Aurora has done. Aurora has invested $1.5 million into a day program, into a day center for their homeless community, where they can go get drug addiction and counseling and a bed and a shower and a
Right.
meal. $1.5 million, all just from marijuana money. They were able to build a $34 million recreational center for their kids with basketball courts and a swimming pool and martial arts classes. All
And
funded
free
from
weed.
marijuana
Oh,
money.
wait, no.
Had a hint of the biz. Yeah, that's dope, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, in your conversations with people, what's the argument against this stuff?
Oh, I love the arguments against it because they're just so unfounded. Mostly it's the kids. What will the kids think? Well, I have a
'Cause
kid. I'll tell you what he thinks.
Kids never smoked marijuana before
Oh,
either.
my
Oh,
goodness.
no.
I know that That never happened when I was
Right.
a child.
Yeah.
So we don't want to
farms.
expose our children to it, which I'm sorry, the world has a lot of things in it, and we need to educate our kids, and we don't get to use regulation to excuse ourselves for poor parenting.
Right.
Like, it is your responsibility to teach your children about everything that they're going to face in the world. And I'll tell you what, marijuana is probably the least of our concerns.
Yeah.
So the children, that gets a lot. The military is another one. One, everybody's afraid that if we have recreational cells in Colorado Springs, that the military is just going to pick up and move. Like, you're not picking up and moving NORAD.
Yeah.
Did they pick up and leave California? Is Fort Lauderdale still in Florida? Like, let's look at all these other states that have recreational cannabis sales. The military didn't just pack their shit and move.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Oh my God!
Four
Shit,
little
she
words.
cursed. Yeah.
Drop them. Drop them here.
That's
You're
the
right
beauty
about
of-
that. And the thing is, like, they need to stop testing them for weed too.
Yeah,
In the military, like, they need to stop it a
Well,
little bit. Yeah.
and that's the other one that I've heard at some of these city council hearings where the lieutenants come out, and I'm not, trying to say negative things about the military. My grandfather was a Marine. Our soldiers deserve our respect. But when the and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit military not inclined, but when the
That's all right.
lieutenants or the officers stand in front of city council and they say, we can't have legal marijuana here because we're going to confuse our soldiers. They don't understand that it's not legal for them. I want to say, one, you're not giving our soldiers enough credit. I think they can figure it out.
Oh, they can figure it out.
And
They already know
two,
that.
They know
government
that
issue.
very well.
yeah, and two, it's not confusing to grab an 18-year-old and send him overseas and
Right.
strap
Yeah,
a gun to
yeah.
him in a
That's the
minefield. Like,
conversation we need to
that's
have.
not
Exactly,
confusing
exactly.
Right.
to our military.
It's not confusing to stuff their face full of opiates and fucking sleeping pills and shit.
Right.
Get
Yeah.
out of here.
So how about
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
we
that's what
give
we-
our soldiers a little more credit? I
Yeah.
think they can navigate
That's a
the
good point, though.
regulations
Yeah.
okay. And then, of course, the religious aspect of it. We have a lot of churches here focused on the family, that kind of thing, and they have come out in droves against it as
Yeah.
well.
I also remember things they came out against, like equality for LGBTQ
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Like,
They've been
do
on
we
the wrong
really
side of
trust
history.
them? Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
They came out against the Von Bailey movement too.
Yeah.
They came out
Exactly.
against a whole bunch of stuff. Man, I like this. I like this idea of having somebody on the city council to be like, stop being
Ridiculous.
crybabies. Yeah, like
Stop being so
let's be
naive.
grown up here.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's frustrated me about city council is we know John Souther's stance on it. The mayor is hardline against it.
For some
But
weird
there's
ass reason.
nobody on city council that will stand up and tell him when he's wrong, when he's just
Yes,
placating
thank
to
you.
the crowd. Just like,
I was
This is
going
one of
to
our
the
points
next
that we always
question.
address with people. Like,
Yeah.
is city council willing to stand up to?
I am.
That's great because everybody else has waffled on that. To be
No.
perfectly honest, like every
I
single
will-
other person is like, well,
I will absolutely be the thorn in the side because at the end of the day, I'm not politically ambitious. I'm not running for city council so I can turn around and run for mayor and then
Yeah.
run for Congress and then keep going. That's not my goal here. My goal here is to better our city for all of our citizens, for the citizens that have been ignored
Yeah.
for many, many years. And so if, telling the mayor, standing up to them when they're wrong makes me look bad politically and, you might not get reelected, well, whatever.
Right,
Cool.
right,
At
right,
least
right.
I'm making the most of what I've got where I am right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're almost to the end. The election's on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
How are
is
you?
it the 6th or the 21st?
Oh,
6th.
it's the 6th.
Yeah.
6th. April 6th.
Oh,
yeah. I was
Why
like,
did
wait
I
a
have the
minute, did just
21st
get
in
that
my
wrong?
mind?
You was way wrong.
I
dude.
was way off.
You
I
were
better
like
get
2
my
weeks wrong.
turn in my ballot.
Yeah. Where does your viewpoint stand in District 5 specifically for the people that got to get you in there? How are they? Where does that lie with them, or is it cool, or do you need help in the community? Like, what do you see happening?
Well, I think, so as we mentioned before, Colorado Springs is known for being very conservative, and I think there's a lot of that in District 5. But District 5 encompasses a large part of the central district of the city.
Yeah.
So we are very, very diversified. So I have found a lot of support right in my district and in the city. I think there's a lot of people that think like me, that think like us, that have these kind of progressive mindsets where we want to help the citizens that have been kind of left behind, where we see our city kind of going in a different direction than where maybe it's always been aimed, just because we've had a very conservative local government. So, and I've been a little bit quiet about the marijuana issues up until this point, just because I know that a lot of people are against it, and a lot of the people that are against it are the very same people that vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, the older, whiter.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, especially in these municipal elections off presidential year, you get, a smaller percentage of people that come out and vote anyways, and the ones that always show up generally tend to be those conservatives. But not to put all of those guys in a box either, because
Right.
there's a lot of them that see the fiscal benefit
Right.
that we are denying. So I hate to say that just because they're a conservative or Republican that they're like anti-marijuana, because that's not true.
They want to kill the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, no, and that's not true
necessarily.
at all. I think we have a really eclectic mindset. It's just a matter of getting somebody in council that will take this discussion and push it forward, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular,
Yeah.
and remind the folks that we're not talking about marijuana. We're talking about funding without having to raise property taxes, without having to raise sales taxes, especially amid a pandemic when a lot of our small businesses are struggling, a lot of our citizens are struggling.
Yeah.
This is a way to get the money in the city without unduly
Another
burdening our
regressive
citizens.
tax.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what's interesting too is I was just listening to a thing on the radio that the income from sin tax, basically, like weed, cigarettes, alcohol, goes up in time and like depressions. So like over the last year, actually, it's not good, but like they've gotten more taxes from smoking and more taxes from alcohol because people are sitting at home bored,
Right.
smoking cigarettes, drinking.
Drinking the hen dog.
Yep.
Cannabis had one of the biggest years on record. I mean,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
stores
I
here in
mean-
Colorado Springs had huge numbers during
Yeah.
COVID. And so if people are willing to spend that money anyways,
Right.
then we can take it and use it for our city without having to raise taxes elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, sales tax, I have some great numbers on sales tax, where all your money goes when you're buying things in the city, and it's trails and open spaces, public safety, 2C, our roads.
Yeah.
That would automatically come back here to the city just without even raising taxes, just taxing an already legal commodity. So I guess to answer your question, it's a little late to register to vote now because you had to be registered by the 12th to get the mail-in ballot. But if you are registered to vote and you normally don't vote, it's a pivotal time for our city.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Get out there and
Yeah,
vote.
man. Y'all know
All the cameras.
You know, man. You got to
Yeah.
vote, man. You got to vote.
You do have to vote. And I think a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm not going to vote this time. It's not even that big of a deal. It's just city council. Well,
Right.
city council is a huge deal.
It's the most important one. Like, this is our, like, I would rather you not vote for the president than not vote for this
Right.
this run right here. That's I
Yeah.
believe that this is more important than voting for the president, in my opinion. But what I wanted to ask you was, are there other marijuana companies and businesses that are on, obviously they want the expansion. Is there an effort to do this in like what ways are you guys, if you're involved with them,
Organizing.
using it to
Yeah.
organize it?
So there is, because the other way that we can get recreational sales in the city, one is either city council can pass an ordinance to allow it, just like they passed an ordinance to disallow it without
Yeah,
asking
right,
anybody.
right.
They can refer the initiative to the voters, which we've been unsuccessful in doing so far because we have to have 6 council members vote to do that. Otherwise, the mayor can veto the decision. Or the citizens can bring the initiative to the ballot ourselves. One issue with that is it's very, very cost prohibitive. You have to get 20,000 signatures first to petition for 20,000 signatures. It's about $2 a signature. You really want 40,000 because so many of them get invalidated.
Right.
So that costs money. And then running a yes campaign against so much opposition is very, very expensive. Because when people don't know, when they're unsure, their default is to just say no.
Status
Because
quo.
knowing doesn't change it, or no changes nothing. So when you want people to vote yes, you have to throw more money at it to get your message out there so they're comfortable changing the status quo. And there is so much opposition, even out-of-state opposition, against the marijuana. I mean, the money that will pour in for that no campaign
For big old Colorado
for Colorado
Springs.
Springs is big. So we have to combat that by having even more money for our yes campaign. So it's very cost prohibitive, and it's been difficult for the marijuana businesses here in the city, who many of them are struggling as it is, because we're losing sales to Manitou, we're losing sales. It's hard for us to, just as an industry, come up with enough cash to be successful. So there's a lot of initiatives, and if we can't get the right city council in place this go around to get it done, I mean, there's a lot of passion behind it, so it's not going to go away. Like, we're going to keep bringing it. But definitely the most cost-effective way to get it on the ballot is through city council.
Yeah.
Our biggest challenge has been unduly restrictive license caps. So there's currently about 108 marijuana stores in Colorado Springs. The only initiatives that City Council has been willing to bring to the voters limited either, I think their first one was that 10 licenses can convert or 24 licenses can convert was the most recent one. So they're basically saying of the 108, we'll let 24 of you be rec. That's basically saying of the 108, we're going to put 80% of you out of business and 24 of you can stay in business, which is just mind-boggling to me. And that's not something the industry will support. It's like when the governor lifted the restrictions on the to-go alcohol by saying, well, only so many liquor licenses can do that. That's enough places for you to get your booze.
So they're agreeing to allowing recreational shops in the city, but only a few of them.
And we haven't even gotten all of them to agree to that.
That's just the
but
starting point.
but that's
their
kind of the
argument?
starting
Because
point.
they don't want the whole city to be filled with
With marijuana.
drug dens.
It already is.
I know, but I think that's
Like,
the
it literally
logic.
already
And
yeah.
a population that we have, I think we're like 600,000 people in the city of Colorado Springs. 108 licenses is not very many. I mean, if you look at the saturation points in Denver, Aurora, Pueblo, Manitou, Trinidad, if you're looking at like licenses per capita, they want to tell you how many, oh my God, 108 is so many. It's not. We're like somewhere down on the below average. Denver decided they didn't have enough. When they first allowed it, they said whoever's licensed can go. And then a couple years later, they said, we're going to have to do another round of licensing because we just don't have enough stores for the demand.
Right. Although it's always
crazy,
weirdly
yeah.
concentrated in certain parts of town. Like my neighborhood has like 4 or 5
Yeah.
shops within like a half a mile
Probably
of one
the
another.
zoning
You know,
regulations, because you have to be 1,000 feet from a school, you have to be 1,000 feet from a drug rehab facility. Now they have one where a marijuana store can't open up within 1,000 feet of another marijuana store.
Right.
And that's why you see kind of some pockets. There's some places that are like that perfect little
But
sweet
they should
spot
have
as
a
far as zoning.
marijuana district. They should have a
Like Amsterdam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Amsterdam. Like you just walk down the street and it's just weed for like it's just a cloud of smoke. You know what I'm saying? We should have that for sex workers. All the whole thing. We got red light
Yeah.
district,
Green light, red light,
green light and red light district.
Yeah.
yellow light.
What are the yellow
know what
light
that is.
We'll
Who's
figure it
district?
out.
I have
Psilocybin,
no
maybe?
idea.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did Denver
Yeah.
get on
I mean,
board
what do you
with
think about psilocybin? Decriminalizing it.
I
Now that you
guess I'm a
mention it.
libertarian at heart. Personal choice, personal autonomy over one's body. If you're not hurting anybody else, knock yourself out. And there's been some promising research for psilocybin for some medical research, cluster headaches, anxiety, depression, bipolar, with microdosing of psilocybin. So, I mean, it's natural. It's here.
Is that the mushroom stuff?
Yeah.
Criminalization just doesn't work. It just creates criminals. We're just manufacturing crime.
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. So I guess I'm just trying to, because we kind of bounced around right there. So I'm trying to catch up, and I'm like, yep, I'm pretty sure that she thinks that the city council's biased.
Well, yeah, what are your
So-
thoughts? Going back to, this summer there was massive protests, and even the summer before that there were protests when Devon Bailey was murdered by the CSPD.
Yes.
And, the city came out and they were like, Dave Geislinger came out and said, I'm so concerned about this, but I'm unwilling to do anything about it.
Yeah,
Right.
I never heard about it.
Yeah, so what, I forgot that was there, sorry if that jacked anybody's sound. What are your thoughts on this? So do you think that the city believes that there's actually bias in the police department?
No. Well, and if they do, I don't think they're going to admit it. But there is, and we have a real problem, and not just here in the city, but in the entire country. And it's up to our leaders to stand up and say, this is a problem. But again, I think everybody's so afraid to come out and take that unpopular stance, at least unpopular with certain maybe more influential and powerful groups. But it's something that has to be said, and it has to be something that just doesn't get pushed off till the next meeting. We'll table that till the next time. No, look, we're talking about it right now.
Right.
And we're not just going to make a plan to review it at some point in the future. We're going to have the conversation today, we're going to make the plan tomorrow, and we're going to execute the plan the next day. A lot of it just keeps getting pushed off because they don't feel that it's a priority. And when you have police officers murdering citizens, it's a priority.
It is
Right.
a priority.
And your dad was a cop, correct?
My grandfather.
Or your grandfather,
Grandfather,
right, yeah, sorry.
So you don't agree that that government is best when it moves slow? No. I'll just, there's people in our city government that believe that it's best.
Well, they think it's just better that it moves slow for some weird reason.
At a snail
That sounds
pace.
wise.
And there's, something to be said for being comprehensive, thoughtful, gathering the data, and that takes time. But at some point, it's like, okay, we've gathered all the data, we've gotten all the input, we know the financials. It's time to put a plan in place.
Right.
I mean, it's like 200 years of data.
Yeah, I mean,
if
there's
not
plenty.
more, 400 years of data. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know there's racism in American society. We don't need to study that any longer.
like,
Right.
it's
You know,
there.
there
It
were actual
exists.
policies that were written that were like, no, let's exclude, people of color of various sorts from this, that, and the other thing. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right,
it's
right.
no secret that racism exists, right? Yeah.
Man. What's your take on LETAC?
So LETAC is a good start. I know it's an advisory committee, so they can review cases and they can make suggestions, right? They're kind of a liaison between the public, between city council to make recommendations, but they don't have any real authority to implement those regulations. And I was at another forum the other night where a good point was made where ultimately you don't want an appointed committee to be making those decisions, but you want your elected officials because then you can hold them accountable for those decisions. If an appointed committee is doing it, well then if they do stuff you don't like, the voters have no recourse. So I can understand why there's that. Ultimately, it's going to be the elected officials that are going to make that decision. But I think a little bit more oversight, particularly in instances of violence, is never a bad thing. But ultimately, LETAC is a great start. But what we need to get away from is policing the police.
Yes, exactly.
Girl, hey, hold on now. All right, well, I'm gonna give you. We still got 15 minutes. Hold on, let's keep going. I'm about to move. Where is it? To Powers, north of where is it? Where's your district?
North of Platte, south of Barnes or Austin Bluffs, depending on
I
where
can
you're
live
at.
over there.
Yeah, well, and it starts at like the sort of northeastern edge of downtown, right? And kind
Right.
of goes out to
Yeah.
Pushes
Powers.
over.
Out to
that's-
Powers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mason
It's a
was
pretty-
talking about that over there.
I mean,
That housing.
it's a very diverse district.
It is.
Like economically, ethnically, it's like how does this district fit together as one?
Right. Which is
entity?
even better, right? We need that because we just can't have certain groups that maybe have the majority of the population running over everybody else. So that diversity is great. But the LETAC is wonderful. I think it's a good start in the right direction. But ultimately, we need to get away from the police ultimately making the decision on whether that officer
Yeah.
is
Yes,
guilty or not.
yes,
Like that
exactly.
needs to be a completely disconnected third party because there's just so much. I mean, it's no secret that there's camaraderie in there, that you
Right.
stand up for
Yes,
your brother in
exactly.
blue or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
and which is just the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. That would be like me being on the disciplinary committee for other marijuana people breaking the rules.
Right,
Like
right.
that's
That doesn't sound right. But that's exactly what happened.
The way I always put it, like every semester students have to fill out a thing about whether or not I was a good teacher or whatever,
Yeah.
Imagine if the cops got that. Like every person in the city
Yeah.
got to fill out a little evaluation. Yeah, I had an interaction with a cop.
Right.
You get like your little evaluation form.
Right.
Like imagine that. Like
From a third
everybody,
party,
and then their supervisors too, because then our supervisors also
Yeah.
have oversight.
Well, and imagine the diversity depending on who that police officer interacted with. Because I am a white woman. So therefore, my perspective, my interactions with the police have always been their perspective of me
Right.
as a white woman.
Yeah.
So that officer may go to a black male or a Latina female or an Asian male, whatever the case may be, and just based on their own bias will have a completely different reaction or interaction with the person on the receiving end. So when people are sit there and go, well, I think the police are great and I've never had a bad experience and
Right.
they've been wonderful, well, all you have is your
Yeah,
experiences.
that's that spotlight effect. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
this is what the world is. Yeah.
And the perceptions are different and they are real and they need to be taken seriously, and those officers need to be held accountable for how they treat everybody, not just how they treat a certain class of people
Yeah.
or a race of people.
Totally.
Heck yeah. I'm with that. Hey, I'm with you. So let's one more further then. Defund the police. How do you
Yeah.
feel about this?
So the defund the police, I think we used the wrong word.
Okay.
I don't know that I support completely stripping the police department of all their funds.
Yeah.
Reform the police is what I would rather do. And at this time, I'm not in favor of increasing police budgets. What we really need to do is take a good hard look at how much money we're giving them and where it's going. And we don't need more police. We need to diversify the type of first responders we have going out to calls. So if we need to reduce the number of police first responders so that way we can add EMT, firefighters, mental health
Yes.
workers,
Yeah,
right,
crisis management teams.
Right.
We need to kind of reinvent what the police department, what law enforcement really looks like.
Yeah.
Because not every call needs a gun and a badge.
Most don't.
Most
in
don't.
fact.
You watch Just Cause? You've been watching Just Cause.
Yeah, I feel like she has too.
I actually, when you emailed me, I did watch a couple of your candidate interviews just to see what I was getting myself into.
Oh, that's good.
So,
Thanks, she did her research.
Yeah, that's good. I think that so you describe what I understand as defund the police, right? Like
right.
I'm not
Building
saying,
a world that's better than.
give me all your money. You don't need to pay nobody. No,
right.
but let's take some of that and put it over here. And
I think it was unfortunate that defund was the word
we had that discussion that when it first started.
Continued. I mean, I would like to see a world without police.
Yeah.
I understand that that's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's my vision of a better world, because the police don't stop that many actual crimes.
Yeah.
Something like 6% of their time is spent solving violent crimes.
Right.
So we all know that violent crimes really aren't a big percentage of even like the world that we're dealing with, right? Most things that people are getting in trouble for are. Every time I've gotten in trouble with the law, it wasn't because I was like, shooting
Killing
anybody.
somebody.
Yeah. Or
It's victimless, right?
Yeah.
These are victimless crimes that we have created in order to manufacture crime, in order to prop up a private prison industry.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it's just our capitalism.
Right.
Yeah. So I like it. I like the whole thing a lot. They got to. If you were running for District 4, somebody has some heat on their head right now. Yeah.
Well,
I would love for you and Yolanda to work together. I think Scorman would go with, you know what I'm saying? As long as there's like other people, you know what I'm saying?
That's just it. I can't do it by myself. There's 9 of us, and really to affect any change, we need 6 that think alike. Because if you have 5, then the mayor can veto any decisions made. So you need 6 folks. So it's really important that we not just look at our individual districts, but that we're lobbying for the other districts too, which is what I have stores in District 4, District 1, and District 2. And so when people are, well, I can't vote for you, but who do I vote for?
Huh?
I don't have any in the downtown district. No, I've managed 2 marijuana stores there in 1 and 2, and then our Auto Tech Plaza auto repair shop is in District 4.
Is that on, where is that?
Platt.
Oh, okay.
Platt.
We used to either have the same number. Okay, we used to have the same number as Auto Tech Plaza, like their old number, or a number off when I was younger, like when I was 19. And so every week we'd get people being like, is this Auto Tech Plaza? Or like, hey, do you guys have transmissions? We actually, we were like, you're looking for Auto Tech Plaza. We had a thing hanging up in our house. It was like, here's the number for Auto Tech Plaza. Like, sorry, wish we could help you with your whatever.
Do it your alternator.
Yeah.
That's funny, yeah. My dad used to take his car to Auto Tech back in the day.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
okay, on
yeah,
Platt.
well, I've got my husband and I own the one on Platt, and also the one down in Security.
Okay, yeah, that's
that
the
was
one. The guy named Jack. The guy that used to own the name is Jack. Big swole dude.
Yeah, so the guys that we bought it from Jack.
Oh,
and
yeah?
then we bought it from the guys that bought it from Jack.
Oh, okay, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah. Anyway, my bad, man.
So the city, we've been pushing this with some of the people. We know it's not like within the realm of city council, but there's a problem with education in Colorado Springs. Everybody that moves to Colorado Springs is like, put your kids into District 20,
I know.
right? And actually, my mom made a good point on the last, one of their interviews. She's like, the real estate agents, they use this as a way to sell more expensive houses up in the District 20 area, like the part of town that's the nicer part of town. Mm-hmm. Would you support actually like having a consolidated district in Colorado Springs so that we don't have a District 2, District 11, District 20?
Like unified school.
Yeah, unified school
public
district.
funding is flawed, and this goes back all the way back to fundamental discrimination way back in the day when these processes were first being set up, and you had more affluent, privileged, richer people in nicer neighborhoods. And so when they decided to start funding schools through property tax dollars, you immediately created disproportion in that school funding, because 80% of public education tax dollars come from funding dollars come from property tax.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Very little comes from the federal government. In fact, the feds have basically said this is a state issue, this is not our issue.
Yeah, we just talked about this last night.
Yeah, and then so you also get a little bit from the state. So when you are funding your schools based on property tax, then it's obvious the places with the higher taxes, the more valuable property is going to have the better schools. And that is only going to, as you said, keep growing. Because you can use that to then boost your values of your properties even further.
Right.
So either a consolidated district or reallocating how we take those property tax dollars, and that is like a huge source of contention, right? Because people are like, well, why do I want all of my tax dollars being spread out all over the city?
God forbid I help somebody else.
Else. Well, and because
other kids, not like grown people, like babies.
children. it matters. Having a
But they'll send money to Africa for the
they'll send their $1 a day.
yeah, the $1 a day to Africa or save a puppy.
Yeah, but not to help the underprivileged kids across town. Right. It's like these kids are going to be the ones growing up and running your city. So you want them to have equal access to education.
Right.
So yes, I think that needs a serious overhaul in how we fund it, or the state needs to get involved, and instead of state dollars going everywhere, it's like state dollars need to be directly going to those schools with a lower per capita per pupil.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that anybody's okay with the fact that some school districts get more per pupil than other schools. It's just a crazy thing to imagine that people are like, that's fine.
Right.
Some people
like, that
deserve
kid
more.
deserve
Right.
than that.
Well, and it goes back to all these, the dollars in education don't really make the difference. It's you, if you have it in you. These people who succeed,
then
they're
why
just
have
they're just
school?
better and
Right.
smarter
Yeah.
and whatever the case may be, which is
They just all happen to live
completely
in the same
ludicrous.
neighborhood.
Yeah, that's nuts,
Yeah.
man. So I don't have any more questions.
I don't either. I mean, that's we usually like to like, haha, we're gonna,
Yeah, like this
but
is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it goes.
This is good. I mean, we appreciate you coming on. This has been good.
Thank you for having me.
We also want to tell our viewers out there to keep an eye out for our endorsements show.
Yeah. We
are going to be
We got
endorsing.
Elizabeth.
Mary Elizabeth?
Yeah,
Fabian?
Mary
I was going to
Elizabeth,
say
I can't
Elizabeth
remember her
Gurley Flynn, but that's not who it
Fabian,
is.
not Elizabeth.
Fabian.
Mary Elizabeth Fabian.
Yeah, coming up.
It's coming on, and so yeah.
Maybe she can move hers up though before
Yeah,
we
hey,
do
Elizabeth,
endorsements.
hey, listen.
Mary, let's do it next
You
week.
got you got some work to do. I don't check your website, see what's happening.
Hermes too. You know, we
Yeah,
saw you
Hermes-
before. but-
Hermes wants to with the Citadel, man.
Yeah,
I guess we
transform the
got a few
Citadel.
more minutes
Yeah.
to his Citadel
Yeah.
idea. What do you think about his
So,
Citadel idea?
Basically, he's talking about transforming the Citadel, basically using underutilized commercial space for infill instead of like going and infilling in single-family neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fantastic creative kind of way to handle it. These underutilized commercial districts already have parking, the infrastructure for the utilities,
Right, yeah.
that kind of thing. So it's a cost-effective way to add more housing without alienating kind of the single-family neighborhoods until then we keep growing and we need to figure something else out. But absolutely, I think it's a creative way to address infill and to help address our housing shortage.
You know, asking that question, I'm glad that we didn't wrap it up yet. If you don't win, what are you gonna do from there? Are you gonna try to do something to help the city still?
I am. I've been looking at kind of a couple other boards that have
Okay.
openings. A lot of them are appointed by the mayor, which
Right.
I'm probably
he
not
don't want
his
your ass up in there.
favorite person in
I'm already
the
gonna
whole
let
world.
you know. He don't want you in there.
so and I think it's important too that whoever does get one, I've kind of talked to everybody else in District 5 and kind of forged some relationships, because it'll be important that if it's not me, that I can at least have a strong relationship with who is there, so that I can kind of bring these issues to them and know that all of District 5, especially with these more progressive ideals, are still being fairly represented, and we just don't get forgotten.
I mean, I think maybe I don't know. The District 5 race seems wide open to me. I have no idea who's going to win. I don't know who has the advantage.
Me either. I was going to ask, like, do you? Well, I think we talked about it when we were off air. Like, is there a way for you to like kind of judge it? And you told me that they sent some emails out and stuff like that. So yeah, man. I'm excited about it. April 6th. Everybody has their
Not
ballots.
April 21st.
Yeah, not
Don't
April
get that in
21st.
your
You gotta
mind.
turn that thing
Don't
in.
wait
How'd
till
that
after
happen?
420.
Yeah, don't wait, man. So turn it in. Don't.
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
If 420 hit, you
Get
are
420
late.
out of your minds, you stoners.
Yeah, it's all the way gone, man. But anyway, so the 6th, make sure your ballots are in.
Dang, Charles is. You got Charles. He's saying vote her in.
Charles, like, I put her in there. So yeah, we got a bunch of different candidates that are on our YouTube page that we interviewed. Like I said, we went through a couple of them. We'll have the one on here soon, and yeah,
Check
we
them out,
appreciate it,
everybody.
man.
These have been
this
really
stuff
great
is important,
interviews,
man. It's
actually.
big stuff, and like what I feel like is people like you. If the government, city government, doesn't take you, the community will. So come on with it, because I feel like right after the city council, like in amount of like power. Well, actually, they're under the people, huh? I was gonna say
Yeah,
the
oh,
people,
yeah.
Is under
like
the
the
people.
community. They're definitely under. I don't know how to like.
Maybe even.
I'm
Let's
thinking
say
maybe
we're all
like,
even.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is like, there's some organizations and things that are here that like we can get shit done, man.
We can
You know what
have
I'm saying? It's
influence.
on the
Definitely.
same on the same
Focus.
level. We just get the right kind of money in there and the people in there to organize around it. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm thinking that if they don't get it right this time, we will have to get their ass out of there our way.
I'm about it.
Yep. Hell yeah. All right, guys. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks
Good
a
to
lot,
go.
everybody.
Hell yeah.
Peace.
All power.
I don't know what.
We got your boy.